Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Let's Fix This. Here we're going to show you how to replace a compressor on an LG refrigerator. In this video we're going to be using the Gauss torch or a turbo torch. I'll put a link for another review that I have on this torch. It's something new that I just picked up. I like to use a pair of vice grip pliers to evacuate the system. Really super easy, you just pinch it right onto the high side and get the refrigerant out. That way it's going into a bag that's out of screen. I'm going to go ahead and remove the ground wires to the compressor plugs. Go ahead and unplug the compressor now. At this point the system is off, it is unplugged. The compressor isn't working, so yeah, just make sure it's unplugged. And I like to cut the compressor out, so I just grab my pair of dikes or tubing cutter. It's not a tubing cutter, it's just cutters, and I cut it right off of the base of the compressor. I find it a lot easier to get out and work with the tubing with the compressor out, so just give it a nice squeeze and those tubes will cut right off. I cut the filter dryer out as well, all the steel. Some people will sweat it out. I just like to cut it, it's a little easier for me. Go ahead and remove the compressor. Once that compressor is removed, it makes it a lot easier to get the plug off of the compressor itself. Remove the ground screw, and then sometimes you need a little screwdriver to pry the plug off. I probably should have, but I just ended up prying it with my fingers. Put that aside, and then I go ahead and take my tubing cutter and I cut all of the ends of the tubing off where I originally cut with my pair of dikes. I'll just go through this really quick. Make nice clean joints so that I can resolder the new compressor in. Straighten out the tubing, kind of align it to where I think it might need to be once the new compressor's in. Then I'm going to go ahead and sand all the joints really good. The better you sand them, the better the solder is going to stick to them. Remove the rubber caps off the new compressor. Sand the joints. I'm going to go ahead and put the compressor plug back on. It's pretty difficult to put it back on if you put the compressor in place, so I found that if I do it while it's out, it makes it a lot easier to line things up. And it's just plugging in the actual plug, putting the ground wire on, and putting the cover back on. So not too difficult if it's done while the compressor's out. First couple I tried to do with the compressor in place and it fought me quite a bit. Move the filter dryer line out of the way so I can get the compressor in and set it into place. Attach the ground wire, plug the compressor into the cabinet. Now when I do these compressors, I like to put an access valve on. LG does not supply you with one of these. I get them at the local distributor. I feel that it's a lot easier to charge the system and to check pressures and stuff if you ever have to come back for some reason with one of these already on it. I'm going to insert the suction and discharge line. I know that the way LG says is to crimp off the process stub and then to charge it through the high side. But as I mentioned, I don't like to charge through the high side. I charge through the low side using that access valve. Yeah, it does cost another $1.50, $2 to do it this way, but I find it a lot easier. So I'm going to insert the tubes and the copper and steel lines to where they need to go. I'm putting the compressor clips back on that hold the compressor in place. There's 4, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. Go ahead and put some flux on all the joints. I also like to get everything ready so that I can weld all at once as well. Take the filter dryer and sand it really good. I've already taken the core out of it. So I guess I didn't catch that on video. What I also like to do with the cap tube part of the filter dryer is I hold it down maybe 1/4 inch or so, put it in once I line it up, then I like to give a little bend in the cap tube portion so that I can see exactly where that mark was in case it pulls out a bit. This is a heat gel spray that I spray on the back wall. You can use a heat cloth or a heat gel spray that absorbs the heat so you're not melting the cabinet. It didn't catch it on video, but I did do heat gel on that red and black wire behind the flame and the side wall. It kind of looks like the flame's going right on the wires, but it's actually not touching the wires. It is touching the cavity, but there is heat gel spray on it. So this is the Gauss torch, and I did not speed this part of it up because I wanted you to be able to see how long it takes to weld with the Gauss torch or the turbo torch. I did a live demo of this on a Sub-Zero evaporator. I wanted to do it on the LG compressor as well. It does take a little longer to weld than your standard oxygen acetylene torch. However, I do like the Gauss torch because the flame is wrapping around the actual weld joint, and it does actually create a really nice even weld. But it does take a little longer. Flame's a little bigger too. You'll notice it's a little fatter. However, I haven't had any issues with it so far, even in a tight area like this, as long as you use heat gel spray. Gauss has a reusable paste that you can, putty type stuff that you can put around things that you don't want to overheat. But all in all, I've found it works really good. As you can see, it welded the copper to steel super easy. No problems at all with that. I think that because it takes a little longer to heat up, that it does make those copper to steel joints a little easier to weld than with your standard oxygen acetylene setup. And it's super convenient because you just turn the gas on and push the striker button and the torch lights. No need for extra equipment, and it just uses the acetylene tank. You don't have an oxygen tank. It's using oxygen from the air. So here's the other copper to steel joint that generally a lot of people struggle with because the steel heats up a lot quicker, and you can end up burning holes through the steel. It gets bright red a lot faster. So I found if I just take the Gauss or turbo torch and you pretty much put most of the heat on the copper part of the compressor, that you really don't have to worry about burning that steel at all. I noticed the back wall was getting a little hot, so I've got my heat gel spray. I'm just spraying it back. The LG compressors have little foam pieces coming out the back that if a flame touches, that thing flames up and catches on fire really easy. So I like to douse them. You'll notice I'm not doing a ton of details as far as evacuating the system, and you'll see I'm not going to do a lot of details on charging the system. Most guys know how to charge a system. This video is not, a step-by-step process, so a customer can come, buy a compressor and replace it themselves. They're generally not going to have the tools, but I kind of wanted to just give either the consumer an idea of what to expect, what the job looks like, and to give technicians the opportunity to kind of see a different way to do things and maybe learn something, maybe not. Check all my welds. Everything looks good. I like to go through and clean all my joints with a wet rag, make everything look nice, clean up the spray. I'm going to go ahead and put my low side gauge, the blue one, on the low side, high side gauge on the red high side gauge on the filter dryer, and kick the compressor on. Of course, this is going to go pretty fast, but what I like to do is I let the compressor get it down into a vacuum, and yes, it works. I know LG says you have to have a vacuum pump. No, you do not. The compressor will get it into a vacuum. I add refrigerant, blow it back out into through the high side into my bag to kind of flush it through, and then I cap off the filter dryer as you see and charge it. I've already charged it now. Like I said, I was just going through this really quick and check my my joints for any leaks. No leaks, and that's how I do an LG compressor. Do not use a vacuum pump. I use the compressor to sweep charge the system, and everything works great. Thanks for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more how-to videos on how to fix your own appliances. Thanks.